everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Collection Comic of the Week, keeping up with this month's theme of doing part 1 and part 2 of stories. Well, the book I've chosen this week is a book that kind of random in my whole collection. It is Adventures of Superman number 631, and the reason that I say that it's kind of random, it's not really random in the sense of why would I have a Superman book in my collection. It's more so random because of the time period in which I have this book. You know, since I started consistently reading comics again as an adult and had the money to allocate to certain books, you know, most of my books that I have are like you can tell there's like a theme. There's like, here's some 90s books, here's New 52 books, here's, you know, this, that, and the other, here's a collection of Silver Age books or whatever. These are two random books I have from 2004. This and the book we'll cover next week. And I picked up both of these books. At the time I was a sophomore in high school, and each year, at the time I was in the marching band. It was my last year in the marching band. The marching band was not for me. But every year we would go up to the University of Illinois in the field show competition. And then we'd march in a parade, and then we'd do our field show, and then we'd stay there all day and wait for the awards that we would never, ever win because we were a small little school in Southern Illinois competing up against big schools with a lot of money and a lot of special effects and a lot of stuff going into the field shows. And we'd stay there all day. And me not being the most, you know, I appreciate it now, but it's still not really my cup of tea. Being the most person intrigued by music and field shows, wasn't really super duper interested in just watching all the bands with more money than us putting on a better field show than us. So with the in between, when we get done and we go back to the stadium, we go to the mall in Champaign, Illinois for like 2-3 hours to piddle around and eat at the food court and be done. And I piddling around, and I'm kind of like looking for, I have a little bit extra money left over from food, and I'm like, I want something to do while I'm waiting for another 3 hours at the field show. And I'm kind of, you know, looking through CDs, nothing new is really intriguing me. Go to the bookstore, you know, try and find some wrestling books or some sports books, you know, at the time, and see if that could, you know, occupy my attention. I didn't have enough money for either one of those, but I started looking at the spinner rack of comics and still keeping in with the old mentality that I had as a youngster of, you gotta find a comic book with a conclusion. I was flipping through the end of the pages. Does this have an ending? Does this have an ending? And I saw these two Superman books, and this one was continued, and the next one had an ending. And the cover kind of intrigued me, because I'm like, what's going on? And I'm like, well, it's not a thick paperback book. It's not the Mick Foley or the Rock book or the Roddy Piper book I wanted, or the book on Notre Dame football, or the book on you know, Michael Jordan's career, or anything of that nature, or the Mike Ditka book, or anything like that. It wasn't any of those, but it was something I'm like, oh, this can give me a little bit of a distraction. And yeah, I picked up these two comic books, and to give you a real sense of how much like I just really didn't fit in with anybody in the band at that time, I was being made fun of by the other jocks because, oh, why are you buying a comic book? Are you stupid or something? Well, something much worse words than stupid that I wouldn't dare use. Or from like the other nerdy people, they're like definitely thumbing their nose at me going, Superman, really? Comic books? I'm reading something this, or I'm reading this manga, or I'm reading this sort of whatever book going on at the time. So definitely wasn't cool with any group of people that may or may not have been on that trip at that time. But it was still gave me a little bit of relief from the hours and hours of band, and well, let's check it out. Take a good look at the cover here. Like, it's, you can just tell some next level shit's getting ready to go down when you have Casualty of War and, for all intents and purposes, Lois Lane shot. So yeah, I haven't really, like I mentioned earlier, I wasn't really in the comic bubble. I just kind of wanted something to read, and I found this, and then what we're going to cover next week. But I mean, like, I was, you know, kind of, there's a lot of different things kind of going through my head. Like, what's going on? Like, where's the continuity at? I hadn't picked up a DC comic book, at least a main DC Universe comic book. I was reading, like, the takeoff of the Batman the Animated Series comics, but hadn't really been much up on the DC at this time. But it was the only two books I found that kind of could flow together and give me a story. And, you know, I'm just kind of wondering, like, well, what's Lois doing? Like, I mean, and oh, the cover intrigued me. I'll say that much. And I got Clearasil out here. You know, it's kind of looks like someone's getting ready to snipe Lois. You know, in the you know, Smallville, and like the dialogue's very, very I don't know what the word is, ominous. Yeah. And they're kind of getting into, you know, I kind of thought at first it was like they were going to Iraq or something, you know, like they were like, because at the time, you know, there's the war in Iraq was going on. I kind of thought that maybe this was something of that nature was going on. Real cool shot of Superman here, just kind of. And then I realized part 5, so I'm way the hell behind. The Urban Up clothing line, and Bragging Rights 04. This was before that was a pay-per-view, I keyed. But yeah, like this is where things started getting a little more confusing for me. Like, it wasn't just a part 1 and 2 book. It was kind of like, okay, I'm definitely know I'm missing quite a bit of context here, you know, because at the time, you know, comic books, I liked comic books, but, you know, I was in high school. I was caught up in sports and things of that nature. So, you know, didn't have my own money, and when I had my own money, comic books weren't the first thing on my list at that time. It was something sports related, something underage drinking related, or, you know, some kind of debauchery. We'll just go with that. Or sports related, or wrestling. You know, we kind of see the troops there, which led me kind of believe, like, okay, so whatever is going on has, you know, United States military backup. So again, I was really confused. And remember these ad campaigns? You got the Teen Titans cartoon, or the Verb ad campaigns. They had these on, like, I'd catch the tail end of what was on Cartoon Network before Adult Swim would come on, and yeah, just almost forgot about those. And see, some shit's going down, and, you know, I mean, the context that, like, the planet's there to cover whatever the hell this is going on is clear. I just don't know what it is. And see, one of the soldiers gets taken out, unfortunately, and Superman was kind of being, for all intents and purposes, would look like he was getting injected with kryptonite. That much context I could understand. Could kind of maybe get behind, and, you know, like, okay, well, that's why Superman hasn't just been kicking ass since the beginning of this. But, you know, it is what it is. And got ourselves a little poster here. But, you know, even at this time, I knew you never take your poster out. Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow, coming soon to theaters. Never seen that movie. Maybe I should. Perhaps I should. And they wasted about like 4 pages of the book that I could have been using to, because I didn't really want to watch the other bands at the field show competition. You know, pages that could be intriguing me and distracting me from the band stuff was dedicated to a poster. So, there you go. More action here. Astro Boy advertisement. That's more dialogue from the trenches here. The art's really good, and you know, it is... I'm skimming for this, but like, it's not a poorly written book. Greg Rucka is a great writer, and, you know, I didn't appreciate it at the time because I didn't really, you know, other than Stan Lee, I didn't really know of any writers. Stan Lee and then like Grant Morrison, Chuck Dixon, you know, from my childhood. I didn't really know about writing styles, and didn't have like the knowledge of, you know, how all these different comic writers, and now knowing what I know about Greg Rucka, like being able to go back and revisit this, like it's kind of cool to see Rucka's take on Superman and everything, and I appreciate this a little bit more knowing what I know now than I did that day in Champaign, Illinois. But you know, it's still maybe I need to hunt down the whole arc. Maybe that would help me like everything. Maybe I need to see if there's some trades of all of Rucka's run on Superman. And they're targeting Lois. You see it? Great art right there. Where you see just the look of panic and shock in Clark's face. He can, like, he hears that it's coming. And there it goes. There it goes. And there it is. So this is shocking. Like, I knew I had a part 2, but, you know, this, for everything I wasn't understanding about this book, just buying it off of the spinner rack at a bookstore in the Champaign, Illinois mall, this still shocked the hell out of me. This was, yeah, like, because I didn't know, were they killing Lois off? I wasn't, you know, in the, you know, I didn't read the internet for comic books at that time. So I'm like, uh-oh. So I really was excited to read the next part of the book, even though I was still kind of confused. I was drawn into the next part, which, after we see Emerald Redemption, which just kind of got me wanting to maybe be a little bit more excited or check out more comic books. I never did consistently until the New 52. But I'm like, ooh, Hal Jordan? I thought he was dead. They bringing him back? That'd be cool. And got DBZ advertisement, and you got Dave Mirra here. And yeah, that was Adventures of Superman number 631. It wasn't a bad story, you know. Like I said, I was skimming over it to, you know, show you guys, but wasn't a bad story. It definitely left me intrigued. It definitely was still shocking, and I definitely do appreciate it more now than I did that fall day in Champaign. I really would like to read more of Greg Rucka on Superman, especially knowing now what I know about kind of being a more mature reader and being somebody who appreciates different things about comic books now. I definitely think there was more there that I would really appreciate. But, you know, I am missing quite a bit of context. Because that's part 5. I thought it was part 1 and 2 that day. That was part 5. We're getting ready to look at part 6, or what I thought was part 2, but that'll be next week. But it was, you know, it's one of the ones I held on to. It's something that intrigued me, and it's something that, you know, I do have a little bit of a sentimental attachment to, and yeah, it's just every now and again, I just get to pick up some comic books when I wasn't really as heavily invested in them, and I'm certainly happy that I picked up that one and the one we're going to cover next week. Do you also own that book, or the next book, or any other of Greg Rucka's run on Adventures of Superman? Well, let me know in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, share, subscribe for more content, not just from the world of comic books, from the world of pro wrestling, gaming, anime, and all things geek culture. Follow me on my social media pages, facebook.com/athleticgeekA9, Twitter @athletic_geekA9, Instagram @athleticgeekA9. And if you'd like to help improve this channel financially, hit me up on Patreon. That's patreon.com/athleticgeekA9. And that, I'm out. Y'all be cool. Later.